Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Right now in the Warzone meta, we have a couple of standout weapons that have some ridiculously fast TTKs. If you're looking for weapons that are just absolutely going to melt enemies, you found the right video. So first up, right away, we got one of my personal favorites. I've talked about this gun for some time, and surprisingly, it's still this good after so long. The RAPP H from MW2. Yeah, an MW2 weapon is actually a top TTK choice right now. Keep in mind, time to kill and having a super fast one does not necessarily mean it's the best gun in the game. You have to factor in a bunch of other things when considering if something is truly the absolute meta, like control, mobility, general handling, and this being an MW2 gun and an LMG, it's slow, it's heavy, it's clunky, but if you got your sights up and you can land shots on a target, this thing's gonna melt. All the TTK stats today are courtesy of true game data, so they are tried, true, and tested. And with the RAPP at 40 meters, prime mid-range there, 750 millisecond TTK, which is crazy fast compared to other LMGs, other mid-range options in the game here. Luckily, even though this is an MW2 gun, we can pretty much just spam MW3 attachments. For an optic, this is mostly preference-based. I like the Eagle Eye for this style of range, but Night Arrow would be good. A glassless would be good as well, especially with like the firing aim stability. So any optic that you're comfortable with here, feel free to run that. As I mentioned, the reload and everything about this being an LMG means it's super slow, so I actually opt for the upgrade to an 100 round mag. That way I don't have to reload nearly as often. You're still gonna have to reload a lot. Like, it's got a fast fire rate, 800 RPM, but at least it's not as often. You have to spend more time shooting, less time reloading. Still a lot of time reloading, but not as frequent. High grain ammo in here, of course, super clutch. Ups our velo to 966, which is solid for mid-range. Great effective damage range as well. Paracord underbarrel on here helps out some with the control, so keeps it accurate, but then also we get some movement back out of here, so it's not the heaviest or slowest option with strafe and general movement and whatnot. Anything you can do to speed this thing up is solid. And then I like Quartermaster on here too. Just turns it into an absolute laser beam, so you're going to be laser accurate, and because of that, its TTK is going to be incredibly accurate to what you might see on a graph, where it is one of the best in the game. Following that, we actually have an option that was just buffed, and it's actually another MW2 option, curiously enough. This has been a top TTK weapon the entire year, pretty much. The thing is that this is an incredibly high skill gap weapon. The FTAC Recon here is extremely limited in ammo. Its velocity is not great, and its control is not the greatest either. They did buff the control. They made it easier to use, and when you are fighting at about 36 meters, so right again in that mid-range area, this is a 591 millisecond TTK. Quite literally nothing in the game is coming close to the FTAC Recon's time to kill. The problem is everything else with the FTAC Recon is difficult, so it's definitely going to take a lot to master this gun, a lot of time in, a lot of muscle memory and recoil pattern memorization and everything going on there. But if you can consistently hit your shots, this thing is unmatched, basically. Again, Eagle Eye optic on here, but you could switch out to any optic you want. Here's one of the main issues: your max ammo, 15 rounds, and you can spam this thing decently quickly, so you burn through this ammo very fast, and that unfortunately is one of the balances of this thing having a crazy TTK. Very rarely will I recommend using an ammo upgrade that actually hurts your range, but in this case, the velocity is not great on this. High velo ups it to over 700. That's all right. It could be way better and needs to be way better to be a true absolute meta gun, but for the most optimized loadout here, only 5% to a range that's already better than everything else in the game is not going to be a huge hindrance. Plus, if you were to opt for a stock, these kind of all suck with their cons, and they're doing very little to your pros there. Same deal with rear grips. A laser wouldn't be super relevant here, and the barrels are very punishing as well. There might be some decent ones for like range and everything, but they're hurting your idle sway and your movement and everything else, and just they're not really worth running. So instead, paracord under barrel going to help out again with the control spam here, but also generally strafe and movement. That said, Jack Slash could be good. Bruin Heavy could also be very good here as well with its general firing aim stability and recoil gun kick benefits. So you can bounce back and forth between a couple of these and see what works well for you. And then definitely Quartermaster Suppressor, making that buff to recoil even easier, so you can stay on target consistently and ideally knock some enemies very quickly with good accuracy. So high skill gap weapon, but so rewarding. And by the way, as we are breaking down all the weapons and setups here today, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful, a like rating would be seriously appreciated. It does help the channel grow a lot. And if you're new to the channel, or maybe you have not subscribed yet, this is your one-stop shop for everything going on in COD, whether it is news, news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. It's all right here, so feel free to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything going on in Warzone, MW3, and of course coming up, Black Ops 6 as well. Next up here, we got another semi-auto, bit higher skill gap weapon, but it's a lot more forgiving, the MCW 6.8. This thing has also been very crazy pretty much the whole year. The velocity on this thing is hit scan essentially at every single realistic range you would ever be fighting with a weapon like this. At 50 meters, this thing's got a 735 millisecond TTK. Of course, that's incredibly accuracy dependent, but this thing, you can spam it, the recoil's not going to be too bad, and luckily with this, unlike most other semi-auto or marksman style guns, you get a 60 round drum, so you definitely have a safety net here to spam, to spray and pray. And this is one of my favorite guns in the game, really has been since launch, not only because there's some cool Tiger blueprints for it, but in general this thing just absolutely melts. And for a semi-auto gun, which is typically much harder to use, this one is more so straightforward. I got Eagle Eye on here yet again as well. This is the big game changer with this setup in particular, the Spire Point rounds. Most guns don't have this. It's only hurting your bullet penetration, that's irrelevant, but look at the velo buff, 49%. With everything stacked here, we got a 1494 velocity. That is absurd. You'll never need that much velocity realistically, but having it means you never have to worry about bullet drop or bullet lead. Ruin heavy support, again, super important on a semi-auto gun here, so obviously checking all the right boxes with that. And then for your muzzle, you could do a couple of different things. Spirit fire is solid here. You're getting even more control, which is always nice. Some decent range and some velo too. Other options here are going to maybe hurt your range or something, which I don't find to be super necessary, but if you just wanted straight up control, Quartermaster would also be viable, and you're still at a 1390 velo with Quartermaster instead of Spirit fire. So if that's sufficient for you in your high standards, you could run that as well and it'd be a little bit easier. But yeah, the MCW is an absolute beast. And speaking of MCWs, we got a different version that's also fantastic, and we know that this one's been super consistent throughout the entire year as well. I'm kind of surprised this one's never been nerfed. The MCW conversion kit for the assault rifle that turns it into an SMG, sort of sniper support, close to mid-range style gun at 18 meters, which is just like solid close range. This has a 600 millisecond TTK, so that's going to be outgunning SMGs and other aggressive close to mid-range options at that range. And this is also an incredibly easy setup to use as well. Minimal recoil, decently aggressive. The Raven kit conversion is the most important part of this setup, obviously. Unfortunately, the conversion kit does limit you to a 40 round mag, so you're a bit tight for ammo. 50 or 60 would be just ideal here, but you can make this work for sure, and you kind of have to make it work. The reflector sight works well here. You know, a NIDAR, a slate, whatever optic you're comfortable with, feel free to run that. We got paracord, good control, but also some good mobility on here too. And then I like Sonic just because this thing's velocity at 541 is noticeable for sure, especially if you get out to like 30, 35, 40 meters where it's still decent. The velo penalty there where it's not, you know, 6, 7, 8, 900 is certainly noticeable in your gunfight. So anything to up that's going to be solid. And this being easy to use, those recoil cons are not really a huge deal. But yeah, pair this with a car, a cat, a Morris, whatever else, and this thing is a great close to mid-range choice. Hey everyone, quickly want to give a big shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. If you're looking to stay energized or hydrated, look no further than G Fuel. They got a little bit of something for everyone. If you need to focus up and need some extra energy, the cans and the tubs got you covered there. And if you're just looking to stay hydrated, they've got the hydration formula as well. And of course, if you're looking to save some money, because let's be honest, who doesn't want to save a little extra cash, you can throw in code Immortal at checkout and get 20 to 30% off any given item on the site. Obviously, with Black Ops 6 on the horizon, you want to make sure you're stocked up, so if you're looking to grab anything at all from the G Fuel site, check out the link down in the description below. And then to close this out, we got another conversion kit, the Lachmann Shroud full auto conversion, except here, because this is an MW2 gun, the attachments are so brutal, we go through and we kit this out fully for tac stance. So we've got crazy ankle break and movement and a 600 millisecond TTK out to 13 meters. That's a prime area to fight with tac stance enabled. So you go through here and basically, outside of putting on the Jack Decimator kit, which changes up the damage, everything about how this gun works, you go all in on tac stance spreads. So the stockless mod on here helps out with general mobility, which is huge, but then it also increases your tac stance and hip fire accuracy. Verdant Hook increases your tac stance and hip fire accuracy. Bruin Bastion does the most for tac stance spreads, super clutch underbarrel for the style of play. And then the Dark Star barrel actually helps out with hip fire and tac stance as well, which is pretty convenient. Now that said, this does hurt the range, and the one thing you might be, mindful of is potentially switching out either the barrel here for a 50 round mag, because obviously you want to be running this, and without it, you're going to be pretty limited with 30 rounds. So you got options to switch out here. Do you care about the range a ton? Well, you could drop the barrel, you could put on that 50 round extended mag. Do you care about the laser a ton? Well, no, you could drop that, you could put on the 50 round extended mag. You could definitely switch out whichever one of these you find to be the least valuable for your style of play. Personally, I think Brew and Bash and then the stockless mod are the most important. So between a barrel and a laser, pick your poison there, switch one out for a 50, or if you want to give it a go with 30 because you're going to drop enemies super quick, you could try that, but keep in mind squad fighting is going to be a lot more difficult for sure. But that being said, those are the 5 fastest TTK options in Warzone right now. And that's going to wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating would be seriously appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.